Today, Lord, as only you can. We give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Again, let me say happy Father's Day to all of the fathers in the house. And if you have your Bible with you this morning, go with us to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 5. Jeremiah, the 5th chapter. And when you find it, you ought to say amen. If you're still looking, say, hold on. All right. Jeremiah's Old Testament, chapter 5. Back there by Isaiah, Nahum, and all of those good guys. Amen. Jeremiah, the 5th chapter, beginning at verse 1. Run to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem. Look and take note. Search her squares to see if you can find a man, one who does justice and seeks truth, that I may pardon her. Though they say, as the Lord lives, yet they swear falsely. O Lord, do not your eyes look for truth? You have struck them down, but they felt no anguish. You have consumed them, but they refuse to take correction. They have made their faces harder than rock. They have refused to repent. Then I said, these are only the poor. They have no sense, for they do not know the way of the Lord, the justice of their God. I will go to the great, and I will speak to them, for they know the way of the Lord, the justice of their God. But they all alike have broken the yoke. They had burst the bonds. We'll stop right there at verse 5. Amen. We have long since begrudged the fact that there exists a shortage of men in our society. Not only have we begrudged the fact that there exists a shortage of men in our society, but we have begrudged the fact that there exists a shortage of men in our churches. But one thing we have failed to recognize is that the shortage is greater than we imagined. Not only is there a shortage, is the shortage great, but like the polar ice caps that are melting away every year, so is the shortage of men being reduced from year to year. I don't know about you, but probably the past 6 weeks, probably my heart has been grieved more than any time I can remember in a long time. Because as I looked around and I thought about the shortage of men that we have, I also had to ask myself this question. Hooks, what have you done to try to put your thumb in the dike to stop the flood from breaking loose? What have you done to hinder this shortage of men? And when I examined myself, I didn't like a lot of what I saw. I didn't like a lot of what I had done. I had tried, but not so much intentionally, not to the best that I could. And what I discovered is that if we don't stem this tide, our society is going to get worse and worse. Our churches are going to become weaker and weaker. Now I understand something, that when I stand up and I start talking like this, men get nervous. You should. I'm just being honest with you. Listen, I'm at that point. I'm kind of like Jeremiah this morning. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't really care. I'm just being honest with you. Because where we are at today, if we don't stop and take a look at ourselves as men, then society, the church, the world as a whole will continue to go downward at a fast pace. What we need to realize is that males are born, but men are made. We fail to recognize that fact. And what we have turned loose on society is a bunch of boys that shop in the men's department. We got confused by their shoe size. Y'all with me? I can remember, I lived up here on 51st Street. I think my oldest son was probably 12 or 13. And so I'm sitting on the couch, and I look over and I see this pair of tennis shoes, and they're bigger than my feet. And so my wife come through, and I said, who these shoes belong to? Because I know they're not mine, so I'm trying to figure out who else in the house. And she said, those your son. I said, which one? Because I know DJ foot wasn't that big at that time. She said, those are Treshawn's shoes. I said, this boy wearing this size shoe? She said, yeah. So although he had big shoes, he was still a kid. Y'all with me? We get confused by the bass in their voice. They just sound like a man. Have you ever talked to Tyler back there? What you want? Dang. Like, man, where'd that come from? Well, you been practicing that or something, too? Their voices can be deceiving. Just because they shave, that can be an illusion. And don't get tripped up just because they have a job. There are a whole lot of boys that work. I've also discovered this. My subject today is trying to find a man. That's what Jeremiah is doing. God sends Jeremiah on this manhunt. And so Jeremiah's responsibility is to try and find a man. And what I've discovered is that there are many married women who are still trying to find a man. They're not looking outside the house. They're looking in the house. They're trying to find that guy that stood up and said, I will love, honor, and cherish you until death do us part. Not I will love, honor, and cherish you until you do something I don't like. Come on, y'all with me? Hey, listen, it don't matter. I'm going to preach this, and I'm going to preach this till I get through. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I'm being honest with you. I don't matter. Before we can find a man, we need to declare ourselves to be a man. We need to find out what the description of a man really is. If God is the one who created a man, God is the only one who is able to define what a man is. We've gotten confused. We've listened to what the world say. We've listened to what our friends say. We've talked to people who don't know any more than we know, who are doing the same thing we're doing. And because they call themselves a man and we're doing that same thing, we call ourselves men as well. But I do need to be honest with you. Most of us are just overgrown boys. No one can accidentally become a man, because a boy growing to adulthood does not make him a man. Men are made, and men are made by the decisions that they make. And they're made by the decision to become a man. In his book, Eric Watterson book, Manhood 101, listen to what he says. A man lives by a set of standards that produces a life that is worth following. A man lives by a set of standards that produces a life that is worth following. Not he lives by a standard today and the standard is gone tomorrow. He lives consistently by a set of standards that produces a life that is worth following. Stay with me. Men who really are not men, who just think themselves to be men, have never made a conscious decision to truly become a man. See, and if you don't decide to make a decision to become a man, you're going to become what everybody else is. I tried to think of a really nice term that wouldn't offend folks. I really, really did. The best I could come up with was a scalawag. You're just a scalawag. That's all you are. You're just an old dude out there. You may be in the house, but you still a dude. Y'all with me? You may go to work, but you still just one of them old dudes. Because it's not so much what you bring in, it's what you bring to. You can have a car and still be just one of them old dudes. You can have a job and still be just one of them old dudes. You can have a house and still just be one of them old dudes. Listen, at some point in time, we have to understand what men are and decide, make a conscious decision to live by a set of standards that qualifies us for manhood. Paul said this in 1 Corinthians 13 and 11. I knew it was going to be quiet today. Yeah. Paul said this in 1 Corinthians 13 and 11. Listen to it. When I was a child, I thought as a child. I spake as a child. I understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. What Paul is saying is that there is a transition, and there has to be a transition between childhood and manhood. And many of us have never made that transition. Come on, stay with me. How do you know if the man you're living with is a child? How can you know yourself, brothers, if you are still childish? Children are selfish. You say that again. Everybody ought to say amen on that one. Children are selfish. And anytime you have a child that acts in an unselfish way, we are amazed. You mean they shared and you didn't have to make them? Oh, you did good. We want to applaud and we want to build that up because that's not something they usually do. You can tell if you are still a child, man, because children have to have their own way. You can run around and talk about I'm the man of the house. Y'all with me? But let me drop some stuff on you. If you got to tell people you the man of the house, you ain't the man of the house. That goes without saying. I'm the man around here lying. You think you the man. You think you the man. Because when you are the man, you don't have to tell anybody. If I have to run around Bryant Avenue saying, listen, I'm the pastor and you can't talk to me like that, I ain't the pastor. Because if I got to remind you I'm the pastor, I'm not the pastor. Because if I am truly the pastor, I don't have to tell anybody. If you are truly the man, you don't have to remind folk. You don't have to tell anybody. If you are truly the man, I want you to think about it. The difference between little children and, let me see how I can say that, grown children. The only difference is the size of the temper tantrums that they throw. Y'all with me? If you're one of those dudes that have to have your way and it don't go your way, you throwing fits and everybody in the house having to walk on eggshells because he might be mad and they don't know how you're going to respond, you just a child. The difference between little children and grown children that throw temper tantrums, grown children cuss. And they bully people. You're going to do what I say. They're going to bow up and stick their chest out and come on, y'all. Cuss folks out. Just a child. Listen, if the only way you can get your point across is by profanity, that means you need to work on your vocabulary. Understand this. Authority without influence leads to tyranny. If I have a position, but I don't have any influence, now I got to make folks do. Y'all with me? I got to strong arm people. I got to be at that point where, if I want some folks in the church to do some stuff, they got to be scared I'm going to get up and preach about them on Sunday. That's the only way I can get them to do what I want them to do. That's tyranny. Y'all with me? If the only way I can get Sister Hooks to do some stuff I want her to do is I got to threaten her, and she's scared. I don't know how he's going to act, so I better go ahead and do it so he'll be quiet because I want some peace in the house. But peace at any price is not peace. I'm trying to help you. I wrote down this line out of the song that they sung earlier. It says, speak a word of life to us that will shape our destiny. I'm trying to help shape somebody's destiny today. Because, see, regardless of where you find yourself at today, men, you can make a change. See, the only person that I know I'm talking to you is you and maybe the people that live with you. Children are more concerned with themselves. And if you are a man in the house and you are more concerned with you than you are with your wife and your children, you're just a child. You can call it whatever you want to. But I'm just here to tell you point blank, you're a child. Men are more concerned with others than they are with themselves. Sister Hooks ought to be a better woman with me than she would be without me. Y'all with me? Children are selfish. And so is a lot of our men. I got mine, you get yours. This is my money, my check. Come on, y'all with me? I see you guys who drive the nice vehicles and their wife driving a hoopty. And they feel good about themselves. I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can do that. That don't make sense to me. I recognize the fact that I'm old school and this is 2019, but principles don't change. Jesus in Ephesians, Paul said this, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Christ gave his all for the church. And so we should be willing to give our all for our wives. Come on, y'all with me? Yeah, the brother's quiet on me. That's all right. I want you to think about it. Baby, I'll die for you. But you won't wash a dish or cook a meal for her. Baby, I love you. And you go come home with a new pair of shoes and you know she needs some. And you won't buy her any. Yeah. Go buy me a new reel. I know Sister Hooks needs something, but I'm going to go. I just had to get this reeling rod. It didn't make no, yeah. Because I deserve it. That's what a lot of men think. But we really don't want what we deserve when we think like that. As a man, I should strive, listen to me, to lighten my wife's load, regardless of what it is. I'll just talk about me, and I don't try to put me up to put them all. I got a lot of work to do. But I want you to think about this. I made a decision some years back of the kind of man I wanted to be. Y'all with me? I wanted to be the kind of man that my children could follow. I wanted to be the kind of man that could leave footprints in the sand of time to say that I was here and I brought more to this world than I took out of it. I made that decision, and because I made that decision, it governed my actions, it governed my attitude. If we never make those decisions, then our attitudes and our actions will be all over the place because we have no more, and we're not anchored to anything. Y'all with me? So, brothers, if you never decided what kind of man you want to be, you need to make that decision. Because whatever decision you make, that's what you will become. Whether you decide you just want to be like them old dudes in the street that, you can find in them on any corner. The only difference between some of us that come to church and those out there is that they may have a wine bottle in their hand all day long, and we only pick ours up when we leave church. That's the only difference a lot of times between the two. And so what we have a problem with is that when we invite people to church and they see what we do, they're saying if going to church don't help you, what makes you think it would help me? My household should be better off because I'm in it. Y'all with me? Not worse off because I'm in it. Brothers, yeah. If your family could get rid of you and keep your paycheck coming, would they do it? Come on, y'all, behave. Come on, y'all, I gotta move on. In 1 Peter 3:7, Peter says, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife, as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Y'all with me? Think about what he's saying. What he's saying is that you really can't spend time praying to God and expect God to hear you when you mistreating your wife. If you're not loving your wife the way you should be loving your wife, if you're not doing the things for her or your family, your children that you need to be doing, you can't expect for God to hear your prayers, because he said if you don't deal with her according to knowledge, and if you do not honor her, your prayers will be hindered. See, a lot of us are just talking to the ceiling. It's kind of like I was sitting in Pastor Green's office one day, and he said, hush. He said, what is it? I said, what is it? He said, listen. And you can hear this little I said, I thought it was the air conditioning. He said, that's those prayers that never left the building. They're up there just going around. Brothers, I'm almost through. Men are the thermostat in their house. And I'm not talking about the one on the wall. As men, we set the tone. Y'all with me? We set the tone for our house. If our house is chaotic, then we have set that tone. If we didn't set it, we allowed it. Y'all with me? I mean, it's just that plain and simple. We can say, well, you don't know who I'm married to. I don't want to know. You know. And you married her. But when we begin to love our wives the way Christ loved the church, even a cantankerous woman would change. But we set the tone for our house. If people are walking around in your house on eggshells, you set that tone. If they think you've been dropping dynamite all over the place and you're just waiting for a spark so you can blow up, you set that tone. And so, listen, our homes should be Not just a refuge for us, but for our whole family. Matter of fact, it should be a refuge for even those who come in, who come to visit. They ought to be able to walk in and feel the peace. They ought to be able to walk in and feel the love. They ought to be able to walk in and feel the joy. But as brothers, we got to understand, we set the tone for the household. So whatever's going on in your house, you either cause it or allow it. And it's your responsibility. See, I want peace in my house. So I don't want no yelling in my house. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And Sister Hooks will talk loud sometimes. She don't be yelling, but she just, when she gets excited, her voice goes up. And I'm like, baby. I'll come back in after the garage, and she said, where'd you go? I was talking to you. Yeah, I know you was. You were trying to. Huh? Yeah, but see, you got to tone it down, because listen, these ears, I can't hear too good when it goes up. Even if you, and again, that's just her naturally. She don't have to be trying to fuss about anything. She just get excited, she start talking loud. I'm like, okay. You got to, yeah, okay, yeah, there we go. All right. I can zone in now. Listen, if it's peaceful in my house, it's because I set that tone. If it's loud in my house, it's because I set that tone. I determine the tone in my house. Y'all with me? I do. I wanted a place where my children could come and feel safe and secure. I wanted a place where no matter what went on at school, when they got home, they know everything is all right. I'm not worried about dad. I'm not worried about mama. I'm not worried about a whole lot of cussing, fussing, and fighting and carrying on. I'm not worried about that because I can deal with the foolishness out there. But when I come home, I need that to be that place for my wife as well. Y'all with me? I need that to be that place for my wife as well. I want her, no matter what she go through during the day, when she come home, I want her to know that when she come to the house, everything is all right. Because if it's not all right, I'm going to make it all right. See, I want her to understand that. And so what I'm saying is that as men, but we have to make some decisions, men. We can't fly by the seat of our pants. We can't be moved by our emotions. We can't, no longer can we say that's just how I am. Y'all with me? Because if that's how you are, then you ought to change. I need my house to be a place of peace, and I need that for my house. And so I want to set that tone for my house. And so men, we do that. We set the tones for our. If our children are nervous around the house, it's because we set that tone. They're not sure about daddy. We don't know how daddy's going to act today. You know what I'm saying? Let me drop this one on you too. A man who is a real man does not live a double life. You're not one way at church and another way at home. Come on. See guys come to church, they sit by their wife and they go to put their arm around her and she flinch. Because she don't know what he up to. Yeah. Men are providers. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, if you do not provide for your house, you are worse than an infidel. You're worse than an unbeliever. How can you declare yourself a Christian? But let me feel this out just a little bit. Because a lot of times we feel comfortable because we go to work and we bring some of our money home. But he's not simply talking about physical or monetarily provisions. He's also talking about emotional and spiritual provisions. Listen, there are folks who put up with folks simply because they can't live without the money. But again, like I said a while ago, if your family could get rid of you, and keep the paycheck coming, would they do it? See, I want to be in a house where if I don't have a paycheck coming in, I'm still valued. I'm still appreciated. Y'all with me? That's the kind of house I want to be in. You know, I talk a little bit about me, but I'm not trying to boast myself up or say I'm all of that. I'm not. But But there are some things that I made a conscious decision to do, because there were times when Sister Hooks was working and I wasn't, and even when I was working and she was working as well, when she come home, I want to make sure she don't come home and have to cook. Now, she can cook if she want to. Hold up, don't get me wrong. But she don't have to. And many times she'll say, well, I'm going to cook this evening when I come home. So she take out some stuff, but when she come home, I already got something done. Because this is what I want. I'm just talking about me. This is what I want. I want my wife to be able to come home and sit down and eat a meal and not have to worry about what we're going to eat. I talk to dudes all the time. Listen to me. I know there are guys that say, I can't cook. You can learn how to play Fortnite and all that other stuff. You can learn how to cook. You can learn how to build an engine. You can learn how to cook. Talk about what we can't do. What we should be saying is what we won't do. So I want her to be able to come home and sit down. If she want to eat what I cook, that's fine. If she want to eat something else, hey, you can cook it. I'll go buy you something, whatever the case may be. But I want her to feel safe and secure, provided for. Y'all with me? Actually, she's spoiled. But when we talk about provision, we're not simply talking about monetary provisions or physical provisions. I was talking to my cousin once, and he was saying his wife was complaining. She said, all you do is sit there on that couch and watch TV, and I got to cook and I clean. And, he told her, he said, well, listen, baby. He said, a big 6'4", 350-pound John that just broke out of jail, bust through that door. He got to come through me before he can get to you. And she said, yeah, but you can get some exercise watching some of these dishes. Listen, if we're men, if we're real men, there's nothing beneath us. Housework is not beneath us. We think it's a woman's thing. But you live in the house too. I was talking to a friend of mine once, and he said, we were going to a marriage counselor. He said, because this sister I married to had some problems. She had some issues. He said, and we were going to go get her. I was going to go get her straight. He said, we walk in there and we sit down and we're talking to the counselor. He said, the lady took my wife in one room. The guy took me in the other room. He said, we're sitting there talking, and he was asking me, what are some of the things that bother you? And he said, man, she'll wash those clothes. She'll put them on the couch and set them up on the back of the couch, and she won't fold them and put them away. He said, man, I just can't stand that. He said, the dude looked at him and said, you fold them. It bothers you that much? You know how to fold. He said, I never thought of that. Guess what? He went home and started folding clothes. If we're in this together, there should be nothing beneath me around the house to do. Y'all with me? Every 2 weeks I cut the yard. So what? What do you do in the meantime? Every 3-6 months I drive the car down to get the oil changed. What do you do in the meantime? Come on, y'all with me? And they scrubbing to clean the house all day long. Every day they're trying to pick up and clean up. There should be nothing beneath us. I'm just trying to help you guys. I'm trying to help you. I want you to stay married. I want you to stay out of my office. Brothers, would you want your daughter to marry a man like you? If you wouldn't, you know you need to change. Would you want your sons to treat their wife the way you treat their mother? If you don't, you know you need to change. Too many males have never decided what kind of man they want to be. So the world made a decision for you. Your friends made a decision for you. Listen to Proverbs 13 and 20. It's just kind of interesting. It said, he that walk with wise men will be wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed. No man is so blind as one who will not see. No man is so deaf as one who will not hear. And no man is so ignorant as one who will not learn. When we hang with people who think like we think and do what we do, that's what we're going to be. And that's all we're going to be. I'm thankful that in my life I've had some men who showed me what it is to be a good husband, a good father, a godly man. I didn't have a lot of them, I'm being honest with you, but I had some. You know, I think about Pastor Killings and Pastor Welch. I had some men in my life who fed into me. And like I said, I wasn't around them long. I wasn't around Pastor Killings real long after I started preaching and he passed away. And then I had a great relationship with Pastor Welch. And there's some other men that fed into me. You watch them and you learn. But listen to me. You can watch people and not learn if you're not willing to learn. If you're not interested in learning, you can watch all day long. And so one of the things I've discovered is that you can try to be an example for folks, but if they're not seeing, you're wasting your time. So men, if we're going to be men, I want you to think about, we have some examples here in the church. We do. Think about Brother Stan, how he took care of Jerry. Just there, faithfully. He's been faithful since the day I got here. Before I got here, he was faithful. He's been faithful ever since. And how he would, with 2 knee surgeries, he would push Jerry in that wheelchair, roll her on in here. Y'all with me? He valued her. He valued her. I think about Brother Bob and how he took care of Iko, and Brother Lewis, how he takes care of his wife. These are men that are examples for us. Brother Jack, how he took care of Mary and watched over. These are men who are examples for us. But if we just hang around with them old dudes, all we're going to be is just an old dude. In the movie King Arthur, there's a number of movies with King Arthur, but this is one with Clive Owen in it, King Arthur. The Saxons have invaded Britain, have invaded Britain, and they're running roughshod through the land. Arthur is a knight, and he got a small group of knights. Most of his knights have been killed. And so they sent Arthur on this mission to go rescue this family and bring them back, what they call behind the wall. And so he goes and he do that. He put his men at risk to go and do that. But the Saxon king he just terrorizing the land. They killing everybody. They raping and robbing and doing all of these things. And so finally, toward the end of the movie, Arthur and the Saxon king meet face to face. Arthur rides out of the castle on his horse, and the Saxon king is standing there. And the Saxon king looks at Arthur and he says this: everywhere I go on this wretched island, I hear your name, half whispered, as if you're some kind of God. But you're no more God than that beast you're standing on. All I see is flesh and blood. And so if you've come to beg a truce, you need to be on your knees. Arthur looks at the king and says, mark my face, because when you see it on the battlefield, it will be the last thing you see on this earth. And Arthur wheels his horse and rides off, and the king turns and pounds his chest and said, finally, a man worth killing. I don't know about you, but I want to be a man worth killing. Finally, I want to be a man worth something. But listen, guys, we will never be unless we make a decision. I'm talking about a conscious decision. I'm not talking about being moved by our emotions, our feelings, or what we hear or what we think. We need to make a decision, a conscious decision of what kind of men we want to be. Because when we make those decisions, it determines our destiny. When we make those decisions, it determines our attitude and our actions in everyday life. Remember, a man lives by a set of standards that creates a life that is worth following. Is your life worth following? Because if it's not, you need to change.